Hey guys, we are doing a little bit of a different video today. I'm going to tell you exactly what this video is going to be. The top 5 reasons that we're kind of drowning in this mold problem. The reason I'm sharing this video, we told you a few weeks ago that a lot of our videos were going to be focused on mold because we're trying to tell you a real story of what's happening in our lives. And this is like taking up so much of our focus right now. And we honestly are struggling, and I hate sharing that I'm struggling. I hate it, just to tell you. I dislike sharing that. It makes me feel too vulnerable. It makes me feel weak, and I want to keep our videos positive all the time, but that isn't always real. And we've honestly been struggling with being overwhelmed with this problem. Now, if there's anything that's come out in our YouTube journey as what we're supposed to be doing, we believe that we're supposed to be sharing our story. We don't entirely know how it's helped people, but we have had people come to us and tell us on multiple occasions that just seeing our story has impacted them in a huge way.
But even daily we get told that.
Yeah, all the time, honestly.
Yeah.
But I mean, let me say this, there's been some wild stories that people have told us about how it's changed their lives. So for better or worse, we're gonna share the good and the bad. So today we're sharing kind of why we're a little bit bogged down and not frozen, but just like, oh my gosh, like what do we do next? The number one reason that this is just overwhelming to us is because this is putting our health and our kids' health at risk. And we've had a lot of sickness and respiratory illness, especially in the wintertime, but honestly year-round for the past 2 years.
Yeah, and I would say we see the health stuff coming out more in our kids than us, but I do think it is impacting our health, Arthur and I's, in other ways that I thought was just, I don't know, maybe us not taking very good care of ourselves or not getting enough sleep. And I mean, all those things could be factors, but anyway, basically mold is a huge health risk. It's huge, and it causes symptoms across a very wide range.
You know, I was struggling with even some guilt, like should we have caught this, figured this out, and dealt with this 2 years ago? Because I knew there was mold in the crawl space. And then thinking, I just didn't make all the connections, thinking, wait a second, is our kids' significant respiratory issues, are they due to this? And my lack of not doing it. That's just like this, as a parent, that's kind of this overwhelming like thought. I almost have to block that out and not deal with it. But so we're dealing with it, we're gonna deal with it now, and then how do we do that in a way that doesn't have a bigger negative impact on our health and on their health?
And that is challenging.
This number 2 reason why this is just totally overwhelming is because the problem has an unknown end. It's of an unknown size. We don't know the extent of the problem, and we won't for some time yet. There's a lot, we see a lot. We know where a lot of mold is. We know where there's some moisture problems, but we don't know how big the problem is, and we won't honestly until that time when in the project where we're actually out of the house and tearing walls out of multiple rooms.
Yeah, and carpet out of one room that has carpet.
So it's basically like we know this big problem, but there's this huge unknown that we don't know. We don't know how big it is. We don't know how far the mold grows. We don't know if it's in the walls upstairs. We have no idea, honestly.
Well, we saw it growing on Gracie's wall.
But we keep finding mold. Like so just in the past couple weeks, mold growing on a curtain in your room, mold growing on the girls' wall. And it's just, we keep finding like stuff in the
bathroom.
And it may be paranoia, but every time we find something, we're like, holy, just like.
I found it the other day growing around a window. I
think if it was in normal day-to-day life, you'd be like, oh, it's a little mildew growing on something. But in the state we're in now, it makes us just think, oh my gosh, there's mold everywhere. And then the number 3 thing is the financial side. This is really expensive, so we got to estimate on how much it's going to cost, which I don't know how much detail we'll go into that. We'll probably share more about that specifically in another video.
Yeah, and the estimate is still only taking into consideration some things, it's leaving out others, and then it does have one thing in the estimate that we may not need, but that we forgot to check for, which is in 2 rooms we have drop ceilings. And we just didn't even think about having those areas checked by the mold people. And so I thought about it later, and I just said, hey, I mean, he has seen the drop ceilings. So I just said, hey, can you throw in an estimate if you were to find mold up in the drop ceilings? Like, how much would it cost to clean and remediate those too? So it's leaving out quite a bit of things, not quite a bit, but like the things in the house that we just are the unknowns, and it's adding in the drop ceilings.
The estimate's from a mold remediator, and it's essentially for killing, removing, cleaning mold, and then downstairs air ventilation versus dehumidification system. So it leaves out essentially upstairs dehumidification, and it also does not include the source of the problem, which I believe is the outdoor grading issue, so that's completely out of it. And so we're just kind of trying to figure out, like, okay, how
it doesn't add back in putting the walls and the floors back.
No big deal.
Yeah.
We'll just tear everything apart, kill all the mold, and leave it.
And it doesn't put in like some other, it's just like more construction things that need to happen.
So we're trying to figure out like how to even make that work, because I actually want to do a lot of this work, and we still have a little conflict. I think, oh well, I can just take this on and do all this work, and have friends pitch in. But she, I think, has probably the more realistic view of it, which is I'm going to actually need to hire people to do some of it, if not a large portion of it, just because the size of the project. And you know how fast I get stuff done. I get stuff done fast, but I have to actually have the time to work on it.
Specifically, whenever I want to hire someone, isn't to put like the house back together, the construction stuff. I do want to hire someone for the grading and putting in a French drain, possibly a French drain. But I also mostly want to hire someone to do all of the actual mold cleanup, the mold removal, the ventilation system and all that, for multiple reasons, but the main one being that they have all the equipment to do it safely. And not only that, they run these huge HEPA air filters while they're doing it. They leave your house clean when they're done. And because also the estimate factored in literally cleaning every surface of our house of mold once they've done all the work, and once the problem that's causing the mold is fixed. And so, yeah, it's safety, it's timeliness for sure, but safety ultimately, because we're going to be ripping things out that most likely, I mean, we know for sure there is some mold in there, and that's going to put spores out into our whole house, and that's going to make the problem within our home significantly worse. And yet, if they're doing it, they're going to be closing off rooms, running these super high-tech, not high-tech, but expensive and large and appropriate for the job air filters. They're going to be wearing the appropriate clothing. They're going to be using all the appropriate things. Because it's not like this is just one little space. It's not just like, oh, we just have this one little spot that needs cleaning.
Yeah.
It's basically half of our house that we know of.
It is a huge diversion from our life and what we need to be doing. And there's a couple factors here that have been stressful, but the basic concept is like, we're at capacity. I have a friend who used to always say, like, he used this expression, I don't have margin in my life. Alice? Who said, like, I don't have much margin right now. And it's like, you're tight in how you're working. And I mean, we have more than some people in some ways, but our life feels like it's overflowing already. So why this was kind of a punch in the stomach is that school is about to start. And this is a pivotal year for at least our oldest 2 kids and probably the oldest 3. And we would have started this
2 weeks ago.
Yeah, so basically we haven't even started school yet.
And Lana, can I just say, like, not starting school isn't a big deal, and I get that. Like, we're homeschoolers, we can start whenever, except a couple factors, like the way that we homeschool in a group, a community called Classical Conversations. That already started, so we do actually have to do that because I paid for that, and we're going to keep up with it. The rest of our school, yes, I can start later, but I think as most people, or even at least most mothers would understand, is I've been preparing all summer, and it's just heartbreaking to me to have to just lay that down.
Well, think about it this way.
I was really excited.
Think about if you find mold in your house. Okay, that's terrible. But then simultaneously, they find mold in your kid's school and have to like partially shut your kid's school down. That's kind of what we're dealing with. Like there's mold in the school and in the house, or mold in the house and in the school. And that's kind of what we're dealing with, because we do everything out of this space. It's not like it just affects part of our life. It affects our whole life. And we're actually going to make, talking about like how this has been, we've given this so much focus and not given other stuff focus. I mean, it's affected the garden. Like our garden has just slowed way down. There's a bunch of stuff sitting out there that needs to be harvested, that Everyday Bree says, hey, we need to harvest this and this and start putting it up. I'm like, how are we going to do that? This morning I was saying, like,
my expectations.
We'll go really soon, girl.
Change. I mean, I'm working on it. It's just that this year, I felt like we were, I think part of it too is that there have been years in our life where I felt like, whoa, like things are just so hard right now. But I didn't feel that way this year. I felt like, wow, I mean, yeah, we have the normal struggles, the normal stresses, the normal anxieties, but we're not overboard. Like we're doing really good. And especially like in certain areas that I have worked for years to be doing really well in, like the garden, like with homeschool, to suddenly have to let all of that hard work go. Granted, I can do it. I can be flexible. I can lay it down. But it still takes a minute, you know? It takes a minute. It's still like, and this may sound silly, but it's honestly grieving. Like I have to grieve, not to the level of like a death of a human, but I have to grieve on some level the fact that like all this hard work and all this, all the produce, is a lot of it's gonna go to waste. Though, I mean, I actually thought today I'm probably just gonna call a few friends and say, hey, come help yourself.
Yeah, I gave Alice some of that short corn. So there's some corn that's really small and stunted, and I threw some of that. So she just finished it, and
she wants more.
We're actually gonna have to downsize some of our kind of homestead type operations to focus on this, and not do others. Like we had planned, I actually was just about to order the meat chickens. The same day we got the mold test, and I was like, whoa, wait, maybe not. And it felt like, it kind of felt like we were, part of the challenges, so
fall garden.
We felt like we were just like hitting our stride with homestead stuff. We're like, this year we're gonna like put all this stuff up. Our garden's gonna be super productive. We're gonna do a big batch of meat chickens for the first time. Yeah. And actually we're not doing some of that, and then there's other stuff we're actually going to downsize, which we'll tell you more about that in the future. It's kind of a big deal, but it's what we need to do. We're not giving up on the homestead by any means. We're just simplifying things a lot. The last thing is just the complexity of the job itself. It is not one thing. There's so many portions to the job, and if we have people do a lot of it, it's going to be working with many people, honestly, because there's no one who does all of it. Like multiple companies, multiple individuals,
multiple contractors. And
we've kind of touched on this, but it's like, I mean, even just this grading project I haven't quite wrapped my head around how big it needs to be, but it's a pretty big deal. I may actually have to move this building. And so there's just so many parts to it.
The kerosene tank has to be moved. There's a giant concrete thing there.
The water line's the biggest deal.
Oh yeah, the water line's buried where we need to grade.
And then drains for the gutters and drain lines for the house. So we're just explaining like why we're bogged down in this, and the complexity of the job is one of the big reasons. Even knowing where to start. And we have started prepping. Yeah. But everything we've done so far is just like scratching the surface. It's not even the job itself. None of it has been the job itself.
I've basically been like packing up our house because there's 3 rooms at least that have to have everything taken out of them. So I'm trying to get rid of things. It's literally like we're moving out. So, and then the other thing is like, our mattresses, any of our soft furniture, our pillows, none of that, we have to throw all that away.
Even the couch?
Even the couch, yes. Our hard furniture, anything that can be cleaned, we can keep. I'm pretty sure our clothes we can keep because they're not like dense.
Sharing this topic, like again, like I said, this just makes me squirm, honestly, but I believe it, we're supposed to be doing it, but is because like this morning we were both like looking at the size of the problem and just, no, I didn't have a breakdown.
I did.
And
he never does.
And just felt like we were drowning in it. We're doing this because I think that it's really good to emulate this openness, but also I don't want to just share our life as this happy-go-lucky life. And so many of our videos have been that, and it's not
real. It really is like that.
It's not deceitful. Our life is awesome out here, but I think that it might actually add more richness to what we're sharing if we're just honest with you. Like, hey, the reason we're not like we haven't jumped into this problem is that we're overwhelmed by these things and these things themselves.
Well, it's not just, I feel like we have jumped in, but I mean, we're waiting on people to give us estimates. We're waiting on people to come look at things. Like I have, like, one company can't even come till September 20th. Like, I don't even know what to say about that. Mm-hmm. I mean, we're on their like list to call sooner, and I plan to call them probably twice a week to see if we can get them out here. But, you know, another guy is coming Wednesday, tomorrow.
Yeah.
So that's good. And in the meantime, we're living in this house, which may be completely unwise, but we don't have another option right now. So we spent a significant amount of money and bought extremely high-end air purifiers for our house. And we're just hoping that is okay until we have another solution.
So guys, we just wanted to share this video kind of in the midst of struggling with this and figuring out what to do next. I'm going to try to do actually an in-depth video on the specific jobs that need to happen.
This is so strange to me to even say this, because we have a good in real life community around us. We have family, we have friends, we have a church, like we have community. But, you know, very few of them have dealt with this problem. There's something about so many of you who have reached out to me and told me your stories, some of which are horrific, but so you wouldn't think that would be encouraging, but it's just, thank you. And even for you that haven't experienced it, that are supporting us by watching our videos, by commenting, by praying for us, it's just amazing to me, the support of this YouTube community, and I just want to say thank you. It's not something, I've said this many times, if you had told me 5 years ago that we would have a YouTube channel and we would consider the people that follow along part of our community, I would have scoffed at the absurdity. And I just wanted to say thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for joining us as we share reasons why we're overwhelmed by this problem. And we'll keep you updated, and we'll see you soon.